What is going on, everyone, and welcome to the Upper 90 YouTube soccer channel. In today's video, we're talking about Chelsea, their last two matches, and what's going on with Thomas Tuchel and his tactics. So stick around as we dive deeper into this. For those that don't know who I am, my name is Mike. I'm a huge Chelsea fan and obviously a fan of the Premier League, but this is why we're talking about this topic today, and that is Chelsea and them struggling in their last two games. Now, as we know, Thomas Tuchel is an elite coach and manager, as we've seen him win the Champions League last season with Chelsea. Yes, Chelsea are the champions of Europe still, even though they lost yesterday to Juventus. But obviously, there is something going on with his tactics as of recently. Now, they played Manchester City in their last game in the Premier League against Pep Guardiola, and Man City obviously is a team that is right up there with them, if not maybe slightly above them. They did win the Premier League last season. They were right there in the final and obviously lost to Chelsea. So again, this is a match that we were expecting to be very close, and it happened to be very close. We lost 1-0, which, yeah, it's hard to swallow, but at the same time, I'll take it because, again, we didn't really get blown out, but again, we didn't look great as we should have. Then we went down and played Juventus, which, again, is a team that has been playing pretty well. Didn't win their league last year, but prior to that, have won their league over and over and over again. And for some reason, we just struggled against this team. We looked pretty flat throughout the entire game. Yes, I mean, Juventus, again, is a really good team. They played very defensively, but they weren't really that above us that we should have seen a 1-0 loss to them. We had some chances, possibly we should have scored. Lukaku later on with Ross Barkley coming on, maybe should have scored, but again, it didn't happen, and sometimes that does happen in games. You just have an off day. Lukaku, again, had maybe an off day, and we paid the price for that. But going back to that game, though, you start to wonder, though, what is going on with this squad, because in the midfield and even maybe possibly defense, we just looked tired. We had some problem going on in this game, and we couldn't get anything going. Now, whether that is with injuries that we have currently going on, because obviously Mason Mount is out, Reece James, Pulisic, those three guys can be detrimental to our creativity. Mason Mount being a huge impact player. Now, I don't want to say he's the one player that can really change our team and make us go from here to here, but he can be that player. Now, same thing with Pulisic. He's not a guy that really you think too much of. He's been hurt pretty much this entire season. So again, he hasn't been very creative this season. But last season, when he came on and was able to dribble past defenders, really unlock defenses, which then opened up other channels for other players. And that is what we're lacking right now, because again, with Juventus, they were able to sit back, and all we were doing was just pinging balls back around and never having any complete threats in the box. And that's where Pulisic, possibly Timo Werner, who didn't come in as a sub, which that's another whole subject I'll talk about in just a bit, or Mason Mount, who again can get inside and break those defenses down, and that's why we probably lost to Juventus. Along those lines, though, again, I think our players are just very fatigued with how many games we played as of lately. You hate to say it, but sometimes players do get a little bit tired and they need rest. And right now, we haven't been able to do that. Now, we have one more game that's going to happen before international break, and that is against Southampton. And this game itself should be okay for Chelsea. Yes, some of our players are still fatigued and tired, such as our midfield and our defense, that we may need to rotate some players. I think this is where Thomas Tuchel needs to show where he's an elite manager by tinkering with defense, whether he does change Chilwell out with Marcus Alonso, maybe Thiago Silva still is on the bench, Christensen, Rudiger start, Chalaba possibly starting as Folqueta getting some rest, Reece James, hopefully if he's fit, as Thomas Tuchel said, get some playing time, and in the midfield, Conte's obviously out with his illness. We have to stick with Jorginho and Kovacic, but again, that's another area that maybe if we could find a different rotation with those guys, maybe that would give them a little bit more rest and actually help them play better. Now, up top, I'm not really too worried. Lukaku, if he gets the service he needs, he should be okay. Like I said, he had an off game against Juventus, but moving forward, if he gets the service he needs, he will score. I'm not really too worried about him. But Timo Werner is one of the players that I really want to talk about, because as we're seeing right now, we're seeing how important he is to this team with his pace, because when he's on the pitch, he's able to just blow by defenders and play those balls across. Now, I know he's gotten a lot of stick for not scoring goals, which that itself is a whole different issue with Timo Werner. But what he's capable of doing, though, is getting assists, which is a huge plus for any attacking player. And right now, I think he's one of the players that should be on the pitch as of right now, unless we need to change something out. Because with Timo Werner up there, again, he takes pressure off Lukaku, but also then pulls players his way. As we saw last year in the Champions League game, he was able to pull Ruben Diaz off, which then allowed Kai Havertz to get that goal and score the only goal that happened in that game. Same thing with Lukaku. I think Timo Werner can take those defenders off of him, which then gives him a little bit of space, which is all he needs, gets the ball, and then can shoot and score goals. Now, again, it's very difficult from Thomas Tuchel's standpoint because he loves doing a back 3-4-3 or 2-5, depending on how you want to say it, because again, typically there's 3 there and then wing backs. Now, I know it's difficult from Thomas Tuchel and any manager because they know they have this philosophy, this strategy they always want to stick with, whether it's formation, players, and the type of style that they play with. But every now and then, I think you need to switch it up because what's happening is our teams are knowing how to play against Chelsea, which can be a huge problem for us moving forward. Now, again, like I said, Manchester City probably had a few options what they were going to do, and today or last time they played Manchester City, they got it right, unlike the last few times before that Chelsea got it right. But Juventus, as we saw, just dropped really low and back, and therefore our plan A was not working, and therefore we need to have a plan B or maybe a plan C, and we just didn't have those options, which again is where we really need to focus on changing those. Now, moving forward, like I said, against Southampton, our plan A should probably work just because of the team that we have and the team that Southampton have, but we shouldn't take it too lightly because as we saw, they were able to get a draw against Manchester City. They got a 0-0 draw there, and they also drew against Manchester United with a 1-1 draw. So again, they're a team that aren't going to just fall over and let any team come and beat them. But again, they're not a team that really should go out there and just be blazing past teams and stuff like that, where again, Chelsea should be able to beat them. But I think it's going to be a good thing for us to play them, beat them, and then go on international break, because then this will give some time for some players. Yes, I know they will go on international break and play for their national teams, but some players will get some rest, which I think is well deserved for some of our players at Chelsea, just because of the high intensity that we play at our club. I think they need a mental break and physical break, and therefore when we come back, we should be well rested to keep going in the Premier League. So that is all I have today on Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea, and their last few games and my thoughts on what's been happening. Again, I'm not really too worried with Thomas Tuchel because, again, I trust his philosophy, his strategy, the way he's just doing what he's doing with this team, because, again, it's one of those things that at Chelsea we have a merry-go-round system with managers, but I do trust his process, what he's doing. Yes, we lost back-to-back games, but, again, these were 2 hard games. Now, if we lose against Southampton, there may be a little bit more of a worrisome, but again, I'm not really too worried. After coming back from international break, then we'll really assess how we're doing at the club. So that is all I have for you today. If you have not, make sure to hit and like the subscribe button down below. I greatly appreciate that. It helps get this video to more and more fans in the Premier League and obviously Chelsea fans. So again, if you could just do that for me, that would be great. But also comment down below too what you think in our last 2 games. I really want to know what you think. So we will see you next time.